Hello and welcome to the CHDS Master's Thesis Series. Today I'm here with Tyler McCoy. He's a captain with Dayton Fire Department. Welcome, Tyler.
Thank you, Scott.
Today we're here to talk about your thesis. Tell us a little bit about your topic and how you chose to research that.
Okay, thanks, Scott. I wrote my thesis regarding how the fire department as a whole can optimize and innovate its resource deployments. At the Dayton Fire Department, like most fire departments across the country, we are experiencing an increasing number of emergency runs we're taking, while at the same time our budget has been reduced, which has reduced our number of resources, engine, ladder, and medic units that we're able to staff. So we are not as effective in responding to the emergencies that we are called upon. So I'm looking at what can we do in order to meet the increased demand for service with the decreasing allocated revenue that's brought towards the Dayton Fire Department.
Interesting, yeah. Real problem across the fire service, I know. So what were some of the findings that you found in your research?
So for this research, I conducted a policy analysis with 9 fire departments across the country. I chose fire departments that have implemented innovative policies or optimized their existing resources to better efficiently respond to the emergencies. And I picked departments that were either the same size of Dayton with demographics or department size, or some like Los Angeles that are nowhere the size of Dayton but yet have really innovated themselves. So I was hoping to look for some innovative means that they've come across.
So Tyler, what were some of the research findings in your thesis?
One aspect I looked at was implementing alternative vehicle response program at the Dayton Fire Department. Traditionally, Dayton Fire, as like most fire departments across the country, have responded to medical emergencies with existing engine and ladder companies. And specifically with ladder companies, now they're costing upwards of over $1 million. And they typically remain in service for 15 to 20 years. Well, with the increasing number of emergencies they're going on, that lifespan is reducing to 5 to 10 years till the point they're needed replaced. And the fuel consumption for ladder companies is very expensive because their mile per gallon is a lot less because they're not efficient. So I was looking at sending a smaller vehicle like an SUV to medical emergencies in lieu of the engine and ladder companies. And one of the biggest drivers from some departments out west was City Council wanting them to become a greener, more efficient department and to lessen their carbon footprint. And one way they're doing that is using SUVs to respond on medical emergencies instead of the engines and ladders, which was one aspect I had never even considered, the environmental impact of taking smaller vehicles to emergencies instead of the larger ones.
And I know you had a number of other sort of top-line findings in your research. Tell us about some of those.
Yeah, so one big thing the fire service is going towards is becoming data-driven. In the past, we used some matrix. Response time is a big one, but we really haven't been able to mine the data on what we really need to dig deep in this big data that we're able to attain now. So one of my findings and recommendations is for the Dayton Fire Department to use a master's student at the University of Dayton in the business department to start a data analytical platform of the Dayton Fire Department and actually come up with a fire stat program modeled after the police comp stat. So that way we can look at our data and make analytical decisions on where we're going to put resources and maybe certain places that they're traditionally not placed, peak time staffing, looking at where we're actually allocating resources based upon that analysis.
Okay, so things like maybe not always dispatching from the station, but using automatic vehicle location, that kind of thing to figure out who's closest to the emergency then.
Yes, exactly. One of my other recommendations is, like you said, implementing automatic vehicle location. So the goal with that is to send the closest appropriate apparatus. With firefighters responding on more emergencies, they're more likely to be away from the firehouse now, and there's an increased emphasis on training, pre-fire planning. So the time that firefighters are actually at the firehouse is a lot less than it used to be in days past. So because of that, currently we're dispatched based on the fire station location, And if we're not at the firehouse, the dispatcher does not currently know that. So if an engine company is closer than, let's say, engine 10, engine 8's driving by engine 10's district, the dispatcher is still going to dispatch engine 10 because they don't physically know that engine 8's by them. Mm-hmm. By using GPS technology, it's going to know that engine 8's closer and will automatically dispatch them to the emergency and keep engine 10 in service for other emergencies.
Great. So better operational efficiency and getting your units on scene quicker that way. So you also talk about mobile integrated healthcare. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, Scott, with the increasing demand for emergency medical services, after the recession, more Americans had their insurance dropped and they're relying on the emergency room more often for minor medical emergencies instead of their primary physician. And they're using these services by calling 911, using an ambulance to go to the hospital, and placing an increased demand on the emergency room. So with mobile integrated healthcare, the fire department will be partnering with local hospitals where the fire department will provide a paramedic, the hospital will provide a nurse practitioner and a social worker, and they will be making house calls in order to address the minor medical needs of the citizens. Especially targeting the citizens that frequently call 911 for what may be deemed minor medical emergencies. And the goal of this is to reduce the number of EMS runs that the fire department responds on, and also the number of people that are transported to the emergency room to help lessen their increased workload also. One other aspect of this is looking at the response matrix on our CAD data, computer-aided dispatch. The minor medical emergencies are deemed alpha runs, and so we can use analysis and looking at what alpha runs we went on and actually staffing a unit with 2 EMTs that only responds on alpha emergencies, and this would enable to keep our paramedic medic units in service for the advanced life support runs and not responding on the minor alpha emergencies, and that's another aspect of mobile integrated healthcare.
Great. Any other recommendations that you had?
Yeah, my last one looked at accreditation. When a department goes through the accreditation process through the CFAI, there's roughly 200 steps they have to go through that prove that they are an innovative department. They have reached national benchmarks, and they are striving to give the best customer service to the citizens that they serve. And one goal I would like to see is the Dayton Fire Department work towards becoming accredited by the CFAI, and also reducing our ISO rating to 1. We currently have a 2, and if we can reduce our ISO rating to 1, it will reduce the insurance rates that the citizens of Dayton pay for fire protection. Mm-hmm. And it will also show that we are optimally staffed fire department, able to respond to any emergency that the Dayton Fire Department is called upon.
Great. So you're accomplishing efficiency within the department and basically looking at ways to improve your service to your customers, the citizens.
Yep.
So Tyler, tell us about some of the methodologies that you used in your research.
Okay, in my research, I initially started trying to find fire departments that had implemented innovative practices or had optimized their services. And when I narrowed down my list, I contacted those fire departments, reached out to fire chiefs, and got them on board to use their policies in my analysis. And in getting these policies, I looked at how they presented their changes to the department, to the citizens, what the results were, whether there was any positive or negative consequences of those policy implementations, and what lessons learned I could use when making my recommendations on if we should implement these policy changes at the Dayton Fire Department.
Mm-hmm. So would you say there was anything that surprised you about your research?
One big thing is collaboration amongst the members of the department and the politicians. Several departments, when they went to implement innovative practices, they are different than what firefighters are used to. And there's 2 things firefighters dislike. That's the way things currently are and change. Mm-hmm. So when you're going to implement change in the fire service, you need to involve all the stakeholders. And one big thing I found to be successful in departments that have implemented change is actually getting the firefighters, the boots on the ground that are going to be actually implementing these policies, actually get them involved in the process. And another big aspect in the fire service is getting the union involved.
Sure.
Because some things that will be implemented are obviously different than we've ever done, and the union may not like the change. But if you can show them with accurate data the reason behind the change, and actually get them involved in the process, answer their questions, and get them a place at the table, they're going to be more receptive to that change.
Yeah, so sort of a bottom-up process.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And the big thing with all my recommendations is just to pilot it and try it. We don't have to fully implement it, or it doesn't have to become a permanent program, but let's pilot it and try it and see what type of data we can generate with it, and see the positive and negative consequences of this pilot program, and then pilot it, iterate it, and change it, and move on.
Yeah, keeping it lean before you go big then.
Exactly. Yeah, the lean strategy really works well. It's going to get your minimum viable product out there. You're going to be able to test it out. You're not going to spend as much money, as much time, get feedback from the customers. We have the internal customer, which are the firefighters and the officers, and the external customer, which are the citizens. And both of those need to be served wholly in any type of policy implementation change.
Absolutely. So would you say then there are any broader applications to your research to the greater world of Homeland Security?
Sure. I think as a whole, the Homeland Security practice is having to do more with less. Every year, budgets are being reduced, and we're getting an increased workload. We're asked to do more than what we did in the past. We need to be open to change, need to be open to innovation and optimizing our resources, while at the same time remembering why we exist, who we are there to serve, and also to know that we need to take care of both our internal and external customer on the entire front of Homeland Security. You know, we serve the citizens. That's why we exist. Our goal in the fire service is to save lives and property. And if whatever change we implement, as long as you can answer that you are saving lives and property with these changes, I think you're going to be a win.
Great. Well, appreciate you coming in today, Tyler. Great topic, and thank you for your contributions.
Thanks for having me, Scott.